have mentored numerous couples and facilitated seminars around the world. Together, they specialize in premarital education. Uttama also has Gottman Level 2 clinical couples training and is a graduate of the Developmental Model of Couples Therapy training as well. They are co-authors, along with other GBT members, of Heart and Soul Connection, a devotional guide to marriage, service, and love, available at the VaishnavaFamilyResources.org website. So let's all give a big round of applause for our wonderful speakers today.
So thank you all very much for attending. We are going to carry on along with Braj Bihar's theme Prabhu for today that he had. He was a good lead-in. So I'd like to just do a little icebreaker. I'd like you to think in your mind a few words of how staying, you can put the top one on, of how staying in your higher self, whatever that means to you, relates to unity and diversity. So if you are staying in your higher self, how does that relate to unity and diversity? Think for a minute, and then if you want to share, you can raise your hand. Vaishnava.
Live in the moment.
You what?
Live in the moment.
You live in the moment. So every moment you're in your higher self, and so that relates to unity and diversity? Or you're focused on the present, is that what you're saying? Yeah, okay. Devanshi.
So, unity, diversity means everybody has a lot of different opinions. And being in your higher self, you can help accommodate all those opinions in a nicer way.
Oh, yes, nice. Vishaka.
Actually, it was the exact same point, respecting difference of opinions.
Anyone else like to share anything? All right.
Is there a little mouse running around anywhere here?
We'll take the talk aloud and then you can just do it by hand.
I don't know. Does anyone know how to get a keypad working if you don't have your mouse? It's probably a short. Do you have a mouse? Sure. He's got a mouse.
Right. So I'd like you to turn to the person next to you or find somebody. I don't know if your daughter's going to work, maybe you can use him. And share some behaviors that you perhaps might do on occasion when you're not in your higher self, whatever that means to you.
Could you repeat the question?
Share with someone beside you some behaviors that you might accidentally do when you're not in your higher self. Especially to people who are close to you. That makes it even harder. Are you two together?
Yes.
So I want you to share with him some behavior that you do when you're not at your best. What's your go-to? I'll take them out loud in a second. We're just doing the... And then, yeah, switch and share with each other. Mhm. And vice versa. What do you do? There, ooh, okay. Anybody want to share any of their behaviors that occasionally slip in? Anybody want to confess? Gurudas?
Accusing rather than say, I feel.
Ah, you get accusatory, blaming. You accuse? Mm-hmm.
Can I say it for my friend?
Sure.
So
Let me ask her.
Yeah, I took her permission.
Okay.
So my friend, when she fights with her sibling, then if her sibling hit her, so she'll hit her back.
Oh, retaliation. Okay, she did that one. She retaliates. If your sister hits her, if her sister hits her, she whacks her back.
You become more self-centered and less focused on the needs of the other.
Okay, you find you get a little bit more self-centered and you don't, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Less in consciousness.
In what way? How does that exhibit itself? What behaviors do you do?
Maybe in all the ways possible. Like if I'm low at my consciousness, then I'm low at everything that I'm doing or figuring out things.
So you don't function very well?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right. Yes.
Overthink a lot about the same situation and come to conclusions.
You run it over and over and over and over and over again in your head? And you come to make up conclusions? You make up a conclusion. Uh-huh. So the story you tell yourself. Mm-hmm. Yeah. All right, let's switch to positive. Share some behaviors you do when you feel you're in your higher self. What's some of your best behaviors? Share that with someone. Did you want to share one, Purnamasi? Do you need to adjust something?
Give us 2 seconds so I can give mic to
Oh, I see, okay. Anybody who hasn't shared, like to share anything on the positive? Okay, go ahead.
Ignore the worst behavior.
Oh, so when you're in your higher self, you kind of ignore the other person's bad behavior. You don't let it get to you.
Yeah.
That's very big of you.
Yeah.
Nice. Give him a hand. That's a hard one. Can we pass it over here to
Your mother, is it?
Okay. It can be care. It can be unselfishness.
So you drop your own immediate needs and you care for the other person.
Correct.
Nice. Give him a hand. Anyone else like to share? Oh, Bobby Mursman.
Well, when I'm in my higher self, I just like to, I'm just a little more sensitive and conscientious of what's around me. And I like to greet everyone. You know, I don't like to let anyone not be met by me. You know, it's got to be a good morning or something like that. And you know, whether it's a squirrel or a robin, you know, just become very just drawn into everything that's around me.
Ah, you like to acknowledge everything and everyone and
Yeah.
give them some show some value towards them.
That's right. You're not just in your own bubble.
Yes, so that's very interesting. When you're not in your own bubble, you also show value to others.
I see lots of bubbles.
Very nice. So give them a hand. So the reason we're doing this is to get you a bit of a felt sense, you know, of what your higher self is and what your lower self is. Because the quicker we can notice or be able to change to our higher self, the more advantageous that is.
So, if you can just raise your hand, how many of you prefer to be in your lower self? Raise your hand. How many prefer to be in their higher self? Is it always easy?
No.
No, not really.
Do we have a choice?
Yes.
So we have a choice. And Bhagavad Gita is actually teaching us how to make those kinds of choices in our life. And it is very important because we experience in the higher self, we feel that sense of unity despite the diversity and despite our differences. Like you're saying that even sometimes you might be having an exchange that your good wife there is a little being negative, but you're able to somehow accept that and not let that affect you. She's just going through a rough moment or something. So that's a unity and diversity, and that's very important. That is very important in our lives that we want to do that. So we want to explore some ways we can access our higher self and remain in our higher self, despite sometimes being in difficult situations. And first we'd like to look at there's why we should do that and how we can do it. How is very important, but sometimes the why is even more important, because if we can realize why we need to do this, we see the value in that behavior is something very valuable and important, and we also experience a higher taste. Everyone, you chose that you wanted a higher taste of feeling unity with your friends and community members and spouses. There's a higher taste there. And so that actually, if we have that in our focus, it actually can motivate us to change. And if you remember Srila Prabhupada's statement of purpose, I think it was the second item, was through I'll read it, to systematically propagate spiritual knowledge to society at large and to educate people in the techniques of spiritual life in order to check the imbalance of values in life and to achieve real unity and peace in the world. So probably there he's talking about techniques. So the why is very important, and we can see that's actually a part of Srila Prabhupada's mission, for us to teach those techniques and learn those techniques. And so some of the reasons why it's important is part of the process of anartha nivriti, to be able to weed out those kind of subtle contaminations that cause us to have negative experiences. It's also important because our relationships, how we deal with others, that is a manifestation of our spirituality, our Krishna consciousness, how we relate with others. Not that we just go on Harinam and everything's ecstatic and beautiful and we're selling books, chant Hare Krishna, be happy, and we come home and we're miserable and fight with our spouse or fight with the other members in the ashram. There's a little disconnect there. So we have to develop that congruence. And Krishna consciousness means seeing Krishna everywhere, in everyone, in everything, at all times. And so that is the practice of Krishna consciousness. But sometimes we have a disconnect. So we want to explore how we can maintain that state of connection. And in that regard, we want to explore one aspect of the connection we have with this body. Krishna describes in the Bhagavad Gita how this body is like a yantra, Rudrani Maya. He says that we are situated as if in a machine made of material energy. So this body is like a machine. So you all have a car, and to drive a car, at least there's a few simple things you have to know. There's a brake, accelerator, pedal, a steering wheel, and a few little lights on the dash that maybe you need to pay attention. Basically not super complicated. So this body is also a yantra, it's a machine. We are spiritual living entities living within this body. At the same time, if we can understand how this body works, how the mind works, how the senses works, we understand the process of spiritual knowledge comes from the heart, but sometimes there's a disconnect with spiritual knowledge. And so we would like to explore a little bit why sometimes these disconnects happen, and some actually quite simple things we can do to learn to avoid those kind of disconnects.
So I want to share something with you that's a little bit radical. It's actually, oh, I might turn my button on. It's impossible to have a meaningful relationship or connect with somebody else when you're not in your higher self. You can't do it. We try to force the relationship our way, and we try and we try and we try. But I'm just going to tell you that you're kind of wasting your time. It would be much better if we could learn how to get from our lower self to our higher self. And so what I'm going to do is explain a little bit more about how, as my husband says, the body works. So there's this interesting neuroscientist, his name is Dan Siegel, and he came up with a fairly interesting explanation, simple one, of how our body and mind, mostly our mind, works. Now, when we say mind in this situation, we're just describing, the physical aspect of your body. Really, though, our mind is a part of our whole body. We have our interconnected minds. And consciousness is connected to our gut. That's why we get gut feelings. That's why we feel things in our heart, and that's where we want to feel them. Right now, though, I'm going to explain the mechanisms of your physical brain, just for graphics. So he says you can think of your brain, your brain to be like your fist. And this here is your brain stem that makes your motor activities. And then in here is your lower part of the brain, which we're all born with because it's for survival. And you also have one part of many in your subcortical region here, which is called your amygdala. And that stores anything that's made you feel fearful. So, and it very quickly will bring it up to your consciousness. Like if you've been burnt sometime and you get anywhere near a flame, you go like that, it's instant reaction. It's to save you. You need it. However, it's like a smoke alarm. We all know we're rolling chapatis and the smoke alarm goes off like the whole house is on fire. So it accumulates so much stored fears that they sometimes accumulate. And when they do, and give off the false alarm or the smoke alarm, they start to secrete, your body starts to secrete cortisol and adrenaline. And when that cortisol and adrenaline, it's meant to make you move, it actually goes up to your prefrontal cortex, up here, this part, which is your more advanced brain that you develop as you get older. Nowadays it's about 25, 27. And this part of your brain, it does reason, logic, your memory, your compassion, like that. So when your amygdala gets really, really worried, it starts secreting cortisol and adrenaline, and it puts your prefrontal rational part of your brain offline. You can't access it.
You've heard the expression, I flip my lid?
So when people flip their lids, they say things they regret, they don't even remember later on that they did it, they don't have much compassion for anything else, it's just get me out of this burning house. So most of the time, it's a false alarm. So we need to understand what our body does when it's starting to do that. And so this is basically what we're describing as our lower self. It's valuable in many circumstances, but we don't want to let it govern how we relate with others, because it is not interested in relating. It's just interested in saving your butt. So if we want to relate, we actually have to do it from our higher self. And just like Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, Evam Buddhi Param Bhutva Samstavyatmani Atmanam Jihishatra Mahabaho Kamarupa Darasadam, that when you know yourself to be transcendental to the material senses, the mind, and the intelligence, then we should control our lower self by our higher self. And Prabhupada said, Krishna says, by spiritual strength we do that, and thus we conquer the insatiable enemy known as lust. Now, I know lusting is kind of a dirty word, you know, we make it like, you know, the end of the world and, you know, the problem of everything. It's actually a very broad definition. It's just the desire for overlording and sense gratification. And Prabhupada says at the end of the purport, you know, overlording and sense gratification, they are the greatest enemy for the conditioned soul. So we want it our way, right? We want it like we want it, basically, for ourselves. And so that's why we come to the material world, isn't it? So we can lord it over and enjoy. So it's our enemy. So the lower self, we were explaining that, you know, it's needed. However, the lower self views connection, intimacy, friendship as a threat. So if you ever wonder why you can't, you know, get over your arguments with someone, it's because you're both, in couples counseling, it says, you two are just having amygdala wars. You know, it's just like your amygdala's fighting with your amygdala, let's do it this way, let's do it that way. You're never going to get anywhere. So, and some of the symptoms of when we're in that lower self is we have very black and white thinking. My way or the highway. We get very perfectionistic, you know, it has to be just like this or it's all wrong. We're kind of relentless in how much we bug people to get it the way we want it. Tend to be very rigid. Harsh. Harsh is one of the big things. If you're harsh, you're off. You're in your lower modes. You're in your lower self. You're very hard, certain. You usually get tight in the body. I know that's how I sort of know I'm going into my lower self. I get tight, kind of across my chest, you know. And that can either, you know, be used to like, or it can like defend myself. It starts here. Right? And we tend to be very short-term thinkers. We don't care about the long-term friendship with this person. I just got to win. So we really need to see and notice when we get to behaving from our lower self. And so we're going to explore that a little bit. And I'm going to have you break into 4 groups, because it's nice to talk with other people. And I want you to, let me see, over here, at the front here, you can discuss how, when you start acting from your lower self...
Is it too many people for 4 groups? Or?
Want to do 5 groups? We could maybe do 5. Okay, we'll do 5. You can do how, when you're acting from your lower self, it affects your relationships with those very close to you. So your partner, your, you know, somebody very close to you. Because that's really when it shoots off. The closer someone is to you, the more likely you're going to react from your lower self, because you tend to be able to fake it and hold it long enough, right? So you can do in close relationships there. Over here, you can do, well, what happens in your workplace when you get in your lower self? How do you relate to your coworkers? And then, let me see. Who's got kids? A bunch of parents can get together. How do you relate to your kids when you're in your, you know, when you're in your lower self and you're responding? And then we can also do friends and japa. How do you relate to Krishna?
Yeah.
How do you relate to your japa when you're in the lower modes? You know, you can just have a little conversation of that. So find yourselves 5 groups. You're all adults. You can figure out how to do this. And you can even pick which category you want. You know, I'm not gonna. So turn around a little bit, find a little group, and we're going to give you, 10 minutes or so. So move quickly.
Well, let's talk about your relationships in your school when you're not feeling really happy.
Whatever you want. Is there like
One was that when we're in lower state, we do japa, we mind gets distracted and we start switching the internet or going up this marketplace.
The hand just kind of like goes to the telephone.
Exactly. So it's only been a minute, but it ends up being 5 minutes, and then we switch the whole world. The weather forecast, sports, and the biggest news, so it really takes it off. Of course, the quality of the job becomes very poor in the sense that it becomes too fast. Sometimes we finish it out and say, "Oh, I'm done."
Yeah.
Or we mumble, or we sometimes doze off too.
The what goes off?
We doze off. Like if we do japa at the end of the day, we start to doze off.
Oh, doze off. Okay.
Doze off. Or sometimes that can happen early in the morning too. For some of us, the early morning is not the more goodness, I guess. Kidding. And then we're also keen to finish because if we leave it to the end of the day and we're in lower state, we're like driven to finish it. Oh,
So you get kind of self-motivated for yourself to get done. Yeah.
Exactly. So the quality suffers. And also during our lower state, we plan out things during the japa. Oh, this is what I will do during the day.
It's my planning time.
My planning time. That's my best planning time.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that, Prabhu.
oh, sorry.
You gotta imagine also what's Krishna feeling like?
Right. Is Krishna with us or is he away from us?
He's everywhere.
Right.
He's everywhere.
Anybody else like to share? You were a very good note taker there. He's got a good summary.
This was one thing that was mentioned was that it's also in a rural state it's a burden. It's like it's a chore.
Yeah.
It's like someone's asking you to vacuum the whole house or do dishes or laundry, so it becomes like that.
Oh, gotta finish these rounds. Yeah. Anybody else want to share any realizations or thoughts?
Well, the makes up there. We'll let them go first.
Hare Krishna. So we had lower self and friendship, and we all had different points that we mentioned. So something we realized that was common is that we have unrealistic expectations in friendship, and this can negatively affect our friendship. Or we can sometimes be judgmental as well. So there might be certain expectations or things that we think our friends should be like, and we judge them if they're different.
Yeah.
Some of us have difficulties making new friends due to past bad experiences with other friendships.
Oh, so you get scared to make friends,
Yes.
so you're going to get hurt again. Yeah.
So that's openness. Tightness in body, so you're not always comfortable with certain friends. That's something. We can be restless as well, and sometimes we are also having a challenge continuing our friendship when we have different priorities in life. Like we have someone saying, if you become a grahastha, your life is different, you're no longer in connection with your school friends.
So the diversity pops up and then you lose your unity. Just keep them in the theme so I get, brownie points with the
And then sometimes we are also holding a grudge or unforgiving, so we see things in black and white with friends too.
And then you lose your friends. Yeah. Somebody want to share here? Thank you for that. Laura here with the yellow t-shirt and the...
You can support me. You can say something also.
Thank you. One point that came up was we're functioning from our lower self in relationships. It might come to the point where both parties become completely silent with one another. And that could be very dangerous because I've also heard that as long as you're fighting, then there's still some chance that you want to keep the relationship. But when there's
withdrawn and disappears.
Yeah.
It's not the comfortable silence with someone you know really well. It's the awkward silence.
Where is this going?
Yeah.
And also, if we're in lower consciousness and it comes to japa, it might be difficult even to chant at all, or chant as Prabhu was saying, just pulling the counter beats down, but it's just mechanical and rote, and there's no feeling behind it.
Yeah.
You want to say something? You want to say something more?
Yeah. So we're just discussing that when we are in a lower mode, especially in the relationship, then one person need to, become silent in terms of when both parties are angry, then it's going to be a lot of fireworks.
Mm-hmm.
But if one person becomes a little silent for a moment, accept whatever is coming, and then slowly that anger subsides.
Then you can get some repair.
Yeah, then you can do some repair. But if both are talking, then as you mentioned, your clip is on, then you don't know what you're talking.
Yeah.
It doesn't make any sense. So that's what one can do.
Yeah, exactly. Anybody want to share from this group up here?
Our realizations were just same, and I just my personal reflection was that we all are saying things that this is what shows up in a close relationship, and we don't mean it. So it just would be nice to know why does this happen in a close relationship. And if I'm harsh to my friend who is close to me, why am I doing that? And why others don't see that, or where it's coming from.
Mm-hmm.
Can I address that real quick?
I was going to go to that after your thing, but go ahead. Sure.
If you're going Hare Nam and people say, so stupid Hare Krishnas, it's like water dropping off the duck's back. It doesn't affect you. If someone very close to you, your good friend, someone you love, your spouse, you're a stupid idiot. That it hurts, because our sense of self-worth comes from how those who are very important to us view us, how we perceive that. So when we're perceiving that, some kind of negativity coming from someone close to us is more painful. If we're in our higher self, we can see, they're just having a bad day. I can understand it's a little rough for you today or something. But in our lower self, we're going to be more affected by it.
I'm also going to ask you, good question. I'm also going to ask you, how does it affect you towards yourself when you're in your lower self? Anybody want to venture something?
It makes me unhappy.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me tight. It makes me closed.
Closed, yeah.
So she
Some
said,
people.
if I'm not hearing this, the mic's not. She said that makes her feel tight, closed, and shut off.
Mm-hmm. And go ahead. Who's got the mic?
I think it also affects your own self-esteem, because you spiral downward that, oh my God, why am I like this? Why can I not get out of this pattern?
Yeah. So then you go down into shame. They call it kind of a shame spiral. You feel bad about yourself. And when you get down there, you actually can't act well. So you're not in your best self. So it happens to some people, and other people, they'll go the opposite way, and they'll get very grandiose speaking. Well, tough for them, I know what I'm doing. So you can go either direction. The center of health, in terms of self-esteem, is when you feel that sense of sameness with someone else. I'm not any better than them, and they're not unworthy of me. And the same with myself. So that is where we have that, unity and our connections, is when we're in that center of health, where we don't feel the shame and we don't feel like we're looking down at somebody. We feel that equality. Did somebody here want to comment? Mm-hmm.
When you're in lust, anger, ignorance, physiologically, it shuts down, and you get into your lower chakras, you can't rise, and it reverses the goodness of the chakras. It actually, in Ayurvedic, it actually reverses the positivity.
Yeah, there's the Vedic chakra science of, what's kind of interesting with neuroscience now that they do the brain scans, they say we just found out all the stuff that all of you people in traditions knew for eternity. We're just showing it, it's just popping up. So, yeah.
So what happens when you're in your lower self? Like again, the body is like the yantra. Your higher self, the prefrontal cortex, that's processing the information that's coming from your heart. It's like there's something somewhere between 40 to 70,000 neural pathways between the heart and your brain, prefrontal cortex. When you flip your lid, you can't access that spiritual knowledge that Krishna's trying to give you. You're at the mercy of the modes of material nature. So we can understand how those disconnects are happening from all the examples that we've given, and we can understand them in retrospect, and that's very good to understand them in retrospect, but we can also understand them from moment to moment, and that's where a lot of our advancement can lie, when we can realize moment to moment, I'm getting swept away by the mode of ignorance or passion, and it's causing me to think in this way, and I have to do something to emotionally regulate, which we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And it's really important, because emotional regulation is important. Like Kshatriyas, before the battle, they would say, you're just like a dog with a crooked tail, blah, blah, blah. They're trying to get their opponent angry at them. Because they get angry, their higher intelligence goes out the window. So, very important to be able to realize those symptoms and realize we don't have to be a victim of them. We can actually take some proactive measures to become Krishna conscious. So Krishna conscious means being conscious of Krishna and simultaneously being conscious of those things that are drawing us away from Krishna and learning to regulate and avoid those things. So very important. And again, so we're understanding physiologically what's happening with the brain. And it's also directly related to the modes of material nature, as Krishna describes in the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. Modes of material nature are competing for supremacy in all kinds of different convoluted ways, and many examples just came up of how they can manifest. And so Prabhupada says they're competing for supremacy, and he says, however, by practice, one can develop the mode of goodness. By practice. And that's a real key verse in Bhagavad Gita. It's like there's many touchstone gems of knowledge in Bhagavad Gita, that if we can just embrace those gems, they can transform our lives. So realizing how we're being affected in these ways, and realizing how proactively we can turn back towards Krishna, we can stay in our higher self. And again, why is this important for unity in diversity? Because a lot of times we're getting agitated, disturbed because of some difference. And there's a few interesting things that Srila Prabhupada said about this. He said, in Krishna consciousness, there is variety, but there is no discord. We may fight with one another on the point of serving, but that is not discord. So one definition of discord is actually how we disagree. But discord is actually a musical phenomena. I think Burjon had the image of all the different instruments in a symphony. I'm sorry, Braja Bihari, yeah. Had this beautiful image of all the instruments that are in a symphony. They're all playing in harmony. If one instrument is out of tune, it doesn't sound good at all. So if our focus is on how to serve Krishna, how to please Krishna, respecting each other, even there's some great diversity, we totally disagree. I can totally disagree with you, understand you, I can love you. But if I'm affected by the modes of material nature, I'm going to think I'm right and you're totally wrong. Then there's disharmony. So that's a very important understanding that differences are okay, diversity is okay. It's how we deal with them and respect them and honor them. And what can spoil things if we have self-interest? Prabhupada said this in 1974, a morning walk. He says, Politics means planning for one's own happiness. That is politics. So in our society, there should be no diplomacy, no politics. Everyone should be eager to do good to others. That is a Vaishnava. If he is planning something, I shall be a leader, I shall be doing something, that is not Vaishnavism. Politics is not good. So really a key is understanding how the modes of material nature and making sure our motive is pure, that we're actually desiring to have harmonious relationships. Not just because it's going to be more enjoyable, but because, as Bhakti Marg was saying, because it's going to be pleasurable to Lord Jagannath. It's going to be pleasurable to Krishna if we have harmonious relationships. So we actually have a duty to Srila Prabhupada and our worshipful deities to have that kind of harmony. And again, Prabhupada says, as soon as politics come, everything will be spoiled. Letter to Guru Kripa, 1975. So politics means we have some self-interest. Being devoid of politics means I'm actually concerned about you. I care about you as a person. I want to honor you, respect you, even though I do disagree. I want to honor and respect that. So that's a very important point, that we have to learn to develop that selflessness. Tranadapi sumicena tororapi sudishina manina manina kirtanina sadahari. And it's important to understand also again that our advancement in Krishna consciousness is manifest in how we deal with others and our relationships, especially our close relationships. As Shankar Prabhu was saying, sometimes it's difficult in close relationships. That is the practicum for Krishna consciousness. That is the practicum for making spiritual advancement, being situated in those situations which are the arrangement of Krishna to help us develop the qualities of humility, tolerance, and patience. It's not just that one day Krishna's going to turn some switch and everything is just going to be so peaceful and perfect. It doesn't happen that way. It's not my experience. My experience is Krishna is going to arrange some situation for us to become tolerant, to become patient. And if we can see that this is happening, Krishna's trying to teach me something. That no, I don't have to be a victim of the circumstances, but I can see that Krishna, he's somehow put me in a circumstance to learn something. Is that easy? No. In the heat of the moment, is it easy? Definitely not. But the more we can realize that somehow we have to develop that consciousness, that's extremely important. And again, we see it as an important service to Srila Prabhupada, because he wanted us to chant and be happy. And so we have a duty. And Prabhupada said a very interesting thing also. He said that if you do something for the satisfaction of the spiritual master, you can do more than you could by your own ability. So if we see, we need to have healthy relationships for Prabhupada's movement. It's an extremely important service. And if we take that as such, Krishna can actually empower us. And one interesting thing that Prabhupada said Krishna can become Krishna conscious. Prabhupada said we can become Krishna conscious in one moment, or it can take many, many births. He said it's simply a matter of understanding the facts and accepting. And that's why it's so important to read Prabhupada's books, and not just read, not just intellectually understand, but to actually be thinking how I can actually apply this in my life from moment to moment. That is a real crucial thing to do in this regard. And it's a very important thing, because we see the far end of the spectrum. There's a very wonderful example of Bhagavatam of a devotee who completely flipped his lid, was Daksha. You know the Daksha Yagna? Everyone know the pastime of Daksha Yagna. He was insulting Lord Shiva, went way overboard. He completely, not just he flipped his lid, but he ended up losing his head and getting a goat's head. So we don't want to become like Daksha. Don't want to become like Daksha. The other end of the spectrum, you have this wonderful example of Jada Bharat, who was insulted very grossly by King Rahugana, and it's described that Jada Bharat, he just felt a little wave of dissatisfaction. Daksha, his mind was just, like, tsunami. Jadabharta was just a little blip. And he just got off the palanquin, he just put the palanquin down, he just started saying the most eloquent preaching to King Mahuga. He wasn't affected by it like that. So we can't imitate Jadabharta, but we should know that's where we're trying to go and put some effort into that. Do you want to go over here?
Okay.
We only have 15 minutes.
So, in order to relate to each other authentically and to have that unity in our connections, that requires being able to notice when that fear-generated responses are popping up. And because that is how we get conditioned. We get conditioned to responding in a certain way. And it's like, you know, if you got robbed, if I got robbed by a man with a beard, probably every time I see a man with a beard, I'm going to feel a little funny. It's just like stored in your body, right? Or maybe your mom yelled at you a lot when you were growing up and told you how worthless you were. So now if anybody raises their voice a little bit in a discussion, you're going to start feeling that, you know, shame or that low sense of worth that came from your mother yelling at you. It's kind of a conditioned response. And even it can go on the positive side, like maybe, you know, every time your grandmother wanted to reward you, you know, she gave you ice cream. So now, you know, every time you want to feel good, you go for ice cream, but, you know, the pounds are popping on. So, you know, we get conditioned in this way, right? And that conditioning, it actually takes introspection and a little bit of courage to notice when we're in that lower self and to be able to respond to our higher self. Because it's, it really is conditioning. And so, I have to expect another one. Okay. So what we want to do is we want to, I'm just going to ask you to think, when you get into your lower self, you usually get some response. And some people describe it as kind of like a whoosh that comes over you. I was kind of explaining that I just get this tightness up here. So I want you to each think, you know, when you start to go into your lower self, where do you feel it in your body? Just think for a minute. Some people, you know, feel it in their chest. You feel it in your chest, you're just going like this. Some people get it in their stomach. Some people tell me they get like, their head starts to hurt. You get yours in the throat, okay? Anybody else? What?
Lower chest?
Lower chest, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Breathing.
The breathing?
Breathing.
Your breathing changes, yeah. Gets a little quicker. Yeah. So the
I feel it like it builds up in my body like a pressure cooker. Not like a Western pressure cooker, like an Indian pressure cooker. And all of a sudden it just doesn't happen that often, but
yeah. So I don't know if it's not conscious, but usually we feel something and then we act or we think it through. So that's why it's kind of important to notice what that sensation is, because you can catch it sooner. So the first thing about to come to our higher self is to start to notice, you know, when you feel that tightness or that body reaction, what the physical sensation is. And then that way you develop a felt sense for your lower self. You can feel it. It's not just intellectual. You know, we can feel it in our body. And then when you start to feel that, you want to pause. Maybe even you feel it, and maybe you're even acting, like you're saying the mean thing, the harsh thing, the relentless thing, the whatever. When that comes and you're noticing it, you want to pause and calm down and self-regulate. Just like Prabhu here was explaining, he notices when he's having a fight with his wife, if one of them just stops and cools down, okay, it takes two to fight, so it starts to go. So I want to tell you a little bit of fact about this cortisol and adrenaline. When you can develop the felt sense, you can catch it a little bit sooner, you can take a few breaths. I'll get to that. You can take a few breaths, and if you catch it soon enough, your prefrontal cortex will start understanding it, and it'll start dripping down some GABA into your lower self, and you'll start to feel relaxed, and you won't just shout out. If, however, you respond in such a way that your lid gets flipped, like Mr. Daksha, if you want to keep your head and not get your goat's head, it actually takes minimum 20 minutes for that cortisol and adrenaline to filter out of your bloodstream. So that's why you need to take a break. You can think, no, we gotta figure this out, we can't go away, we can't go to bed angry. You can't do anything if you're angry. Better to go to bed. Now, sometimes when you're really upset, you maybe even need to have a conversation with your adaptive child. Now, this is a whole other seminar, but when we were younger, and say that example of the mom who always yelled at you, bed, you didn't do anything, but that's not going to really work out, you know? You have a little argument with your husband and just going and disappearing, into your kitchen and never coming out, it's not working. Maybe you did it with as a kid, but you need to find a higher self, adult way in which to respond. So sometimes when we're off cooling down, we need to have a little conversation with that younger version of ourselves and the ways in which we responded then, and saying, this really isn't working now. I know you're in pain and it must feel bad, but you know what? I can run the show right now. How about you sit in the back seat and I'm gonna react with my wife right now, because you're not doing such a good job. So in that way, we need to take over. The higher self needs to take over from the lower self. And sometimes because we're very conditioned, we do need to explore that a little bit and have that conversation. So then we want to try to access our felt sense for our higher self. And sometimes I do a little meditation with audiences so you can kind of feel when you're in your higher self, how that feels in your body. So it's something that you can, think about maybe when you're in those good moments, because we don't really have time for that right now. I know that sometimes it comes as a gesture, sometimes it's a word, sometimes it's a feeling, sometimes for some people it's a color. I know when, if I'm starting to feel a little bit anxious and I want to go to my higher self, I tend to do this. I don't know why. It has to be my left hand. It doesn't work with my right hand. I just kind of go like this, and then I I can chant a little bit better japa. I can, relate with someone. You take a pause, you take a breath, and you try to visualize how your body feels when you're in your higher self. And then your behaviors will follow. So we need to learn how to notice when we're in our lower selves, because it ruins our interactions, ruins our communities. We don't have that, family camaraderie that we're looking for. And so we need to practice, noticing it and switching. Take on.
A very important part of unity and diversity is becoming free from offenses. And there's a very beautiful bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Vishnu Jan Swami visited Vancouver. I think it was 1974, and he did bhajans upstairs at the temple. And there was one bhajan he sang, he gave a translation that's always stuck in my mind. And the translation that was Kavi Habi Bolo was, when will that day be mine?
Offenses ceasing.
Taste for the day increasing.
When will that day be mine?
When will that day be mine? So when will that day come when we cease our offenses? And that's such an important thing, because we want to access Krishna. We want unity with Krishna. We want to have that sense of closeness with Krishna. And that's not something separate from connection with Krishna's devotees. So it's almost like a two-sided coin. If we could actually realize Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and He's always with us, automatically we would be respectful and humble and patient and tolerant with everyone. But that takes a lot of practice. And simultaneously, if we can develop that humility, tolerance, and patience towards those us around us, and develop that sense of unity despite our differences and the way we know each other and so many things, if we could do that, Krishna will reveal Himself to us. So it's like a two-sided coin. So it's a very important part of our spiritual life and important thing to focus on. And Nartana is very important. And again, your daily life, your workplace, dealing with your kids, it's the practicum for Krishna consciousness. It's not something different. That's a very, I think, great detriment to our society that this paradigm evolved, especially for grihastas, that grihasta life is something different than your spiritual life. It's an important part of your spiritual life. Very important.
That's where you get all your practice.
Yeah.
All right, we're just going to take a little feedback. This is just a little chart. We'll maybe show it tomorrow. The difference between your higher self and your lower self, what it looks like. We originally thought we had an hour and a half, but we only had an hour and 15 minutes, so we'll just carry on tomorrow. Any comments, realizations, something you want to share? Purnamasi, do you have a...
We'll start with the mic, whoever's close to the microphone here.
You got it? Okay, we'll get to
this
you.
way back.
Okay.
Yeah, Guru Das Prabhu and I, we were wondering earlier, it said converse with your AC, so was that the...
Adaptive child.
Oh, okay.
I thought I was explaining about the...
Oh.
Sorry. It meant AC Bhaktivedanta.
That too, have a little talk with AC Bhaktivedanta Swami in your heart. Yeah. That's a whole other seminar, and I'm sorry I couldn't get to it, but the reason I put it in there is because usually when you can't soothe yourself, you have to go a little bit deeper to the past. And there's techniques for doing that, and that's maybe beyond this seminar. It's just, it can be done, and we can, reparent that younger version and become a wise, higher self adult.
Do you have that as a video? Can we find it online?
Did we talk about that in the Toronto seminar? Yeah. When we did a seminar in Toronto in April. It's on
April
there.
2025.
Yeah. Want to pass it back to Purnamasi back? Oh, she's already back there. He's a fast runner. He's ahead of the...
Not exactly the process you're speaking about, but I find when some rare times we may have a disagreement and it seems to be ramping up and we're both extremely stubborn. So even if you know, I know I'm acting on a lower platform and I can't just switch off and choose the... What I found works, and I should do it a lot more, is just pick up any of Prabhupada's books and start reading.
Yeah.
And within a few minutes, everything's just calm.
That's
and
a great tip for getting to your higher self.
Something
Yeah.
amazing, and you think, what was that even about?
That's so ridiculous. Yeah.
And it works absolutely every time.
Yeah.
Can I share something about relationship with the Holy Name? I had the opportunity in 1977 to associate with Srila Prabhupada in his final days in Prabhupada's room for anywhere between 4 to 14 or more hours a day for almost a week and a half, chanting japa and doing bhajan. And the last several days he asked just for japa, so I was chanting japa for literally from 5:30 in the morning until 9:30 or 10 at night when I was falling asleep standing up. And it totally transformed the way I chant japa. that experience always stuck with me, and sometimes people ask me, what was it like to be a Srila Prabhupada? And I'll say, just chant japa attentively. You will feel exactly what it's like to be in Prabhupada's presence. It's very powerful. And that's something that really has profoundly affected my job in my life, is just having that opportunity to personally sit beside Srila Prabhupada's bed and chant japa for him. It's like very powerful. And we all have that opportunity, because he instructed all of us, either directly or through his followers, to chant the holy name. It's very powerful, and that will help you connect more with your higher self.
I was just when you were talking about that, when you feel that, and that sort of gives you, grounds you, or brings you back to that.
Yeah.
They've actually found that people smile when they feel good.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're sitting there and you don't feel good, they say, just smile.
Or you can go,
Yeah.
they also say, if you raise your arms and say, Haribol, you cannot feel sad.
Well, you'll automatically smile.
Yes.
But they say it works in reverse. That if you just smile, you force yourself to smile, all of a sudden you'll start to feel better.
Okay, there we go.
Now that's very much on the mundane platform, but again, if we just try to start bringing ourselves from the lower to the higher, then things can.
It's not mundane. It's utilizing the body that Krishna gave you to get to a place where you can serve Krishna in your best, at your best.
Right, but it's sort of it's utilizing the material part.
Yeah, because I was going to read this bhajan by Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He says, due to the reaction of past sinful acts, my body itself has become an impediment to the service of the Supreme Lord. So, psychologists and stuff, they discovered that the body keeps the score of all of that past, Brajbihari was saying, your prarabdha karma, from the previous, it's stored in your body. So when you can just do a little body change, it can help you to get beyond that. So maybe it's material, but you have a material body. You got to use it. You might as well use it to uplift yourself.
And even just that first part of that process that you're describing, Krishna's covers, just thinking, I want to improve. Whatever step you take, even if you just think, that's starting the change.
Nectar Devotion says if you just think about doing some devotional service, Krishna accepts it as devotional service. Huh? Yeah. Gauradas will let you one more thing here, and then we'll have to
I
end.
just want to support the point that you and Krishnadas are making. I want to support the point you and Krishnadas are making. I remember Bhagavan Prabhu, our godbrother, he was telling this story that when he was in Mumbai, and all of this problem with Mr. Nair, who is just giving us endless problems. And Prabhupada noticed that Bhagavan Prabhu was kind of dejected and wasn't moving in the kirtan. And Prabhupada asked him, why aren't you dancing? And he said, oh, Srila Prabhupada, I'm so burdened and overwhelmed with all this fighting in the court with Mr. Nair. Prabhupada said, it doesn't matter. Even if you don't feel like dancing, if you dance anyway, then soon you'll feel like dancing. So I thought that supports the point.
So all the processes of devotional service, they bring us to our higher self. That's why we do them. And then we can connect with Krishna and with each other and have vibrant communities. So Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Sadhu Sanga ki jai.